Welcome to another DIY kit. Everything you need to complete a do-it-yourself project. For detailed lists, instructions, and more, go to DIYnet.com and click on DIY Kits. Today's kit will show you how to install beadboard wainscoting, and it's brought to you exclusively by Loctite. To get started, you'll need tongue and groove beadboard, chair rail molding, construction adhesive, a pry bar, a level, a circular saw, caulk and gun, and a tape measure. Before you begin, remove any existing baseboards with a pry bar. Next, measure up from the floor, mark the planned height for your wainscoting, and extend the line around the entire area using a level. Chair rails typically are between 32 and 36 inches above the floor, but you can adjust it if the height will be awkward with window frames. Then, cut your tongue and groove panel to length. Now apply a wavy line of construction adhesive along the back, position the board on the wall, align the top edge with the level line, and check that it's plumb. Now apply pressure to the board with the butt of your hand to bond the boards with the wall. Then repeat the process, measuring and cutting the boards as you go to allow for uneven floors. And be sure to allow for a slight gap between each board for expansion in humid weather. Wainscoting can also be installed with nails, but that requires locating studs, driving in nails, and applying wood putty to the holes. With the wainscoting complete, cut and adhere the chair rail to the wall along the upper edge of the beadboards and fill any gaps with caulk. Then paint or stain as desired. Wainscoting will add warmth and elegance to any room in your home, and it will also protect your plasterboard walls from damage. Log on to DIYnet.com for complete instructions. You'll also find how you can buy everything you need to complete this project, along with many other creative DIY kits. Today's kit is brought to you by Loctite.
Loctite Power Grab grabs instantly, with 9 times higher initial hold than the leading brand, without bracing and without hammering. Loctite Power Grab. Project solved.
Warehouse Warriors and the Discover the Cost special feature has been brought to you in part by Discover Card. It pays to discover.
DIY, the Do-It-Yourself Network, is showing you the fine art of furniture making with Woodworks. Tomorrow at 7:30 Eastern on DIY.
Fluid can be a sign of serious trouble. If you spot leaks, have your car checked out by a qualified mechanic. Look too for other warning signs, sounds, smells, or differences in handling that could be your first clue of trouble. Check your tire pressure monthly and examine your hoses and belts for signs of wear. The more miles your car has on it, the more likely these are to fail, and the damage can be serious. Finally, keep your tires in good working condition by rotating them with every oil change. And while you're at it, inspect your front and rear brakes and replace the brake shoes and pads when they show signs of wear. No matter how many miles you rack up, take care of your high mileage car and it will take care of you. Log on to DIYnet.com for more on today's topic. You'll find helpful advice, insightful tips, and everything you need to research this and many other projects. Today's kit is brought to you by Quaker State.
You want your car to last forever, right? How do you feel about friction, tightwad? Newsflash, pal. Over time, seals can bust.
Hey, hey!
Rings can blow. Don't forget metal to metal contact. This is Quaker State higher mileage engine, proven to reduce friction and condition seals. And it helps restore power in engines with over 75,000 miles.
You gonna pay for that?
Nope. Quaker State higher mileage engine, the power to reduce friction. Don't make me send you the lab results.
Big home repair or remodeling project? Relax. Now there's DIY, a whole new perspective on home repair and remodeling. Weekdays at 8 Eastern.
Coming up on DIY's Build a Deck, this ordinary pile of lumber becomes a beautiful deck. I'll show you how. Welcome to DIY's Build a Deck. I'm Jeff Wilson. In this day and age, an outdoor deck is as common to a house as indoor plumbing. You wouldn't want to be without it. It can serve as living room and kitchen, a place to relax and entertain. In fact, when the weather's good, you might spend more time on the deck than you do inside the house. On this 5-part workshop series, we'll show you how to build a deck step by step, start to finish. And then we'll showcase 5 extreme decks that'll get your creative juices flowing and show you that your new deck is limited only by your imagination. Come on, let's get started. We've got a deck to build. This is the home where we'll be building our deck. It was actually built in the 1980s of antique tobacco barn logs, but the homeowners purchased it recently and it's undergoing a complete renovation. Now, part of that renovation is a brand new deck on the back side of the house. Let's go check out the job site. Okay, here we are at the back of the house, and this is where the new deck is going to go. Here to help us with that today is Rob Vanoy with Graham Vanoy Construction. Rob, thanks to you and your crew for helping out today.
Yes, sir.
I understand that you guys are deck specialists.
That's correct. We started a company in 1990 that did nothing but decks.
That's great. Well, we look forward to your expert advice. So the first thing they had to do was tear out this old deck, and why did they have to do that?
The deck that was here had a lot of rot and decaying wood in it. Some of the members were spanning too far for what we needed, so we decided the best thing to do was tear it down.
Yeah, and build something safe and sturdy, huh? Okay, so once everything was torn out, what's our first step?
I guess the first step is to go ahead and come up with a plan of what you want to do, and we did that here.
Nothing fancy, right?
Nothing fancy at all. Very simple, straightforward deck. And then I guess the next step from there is to take a plan like this to go to your permit office so you can pull a permit for the job.
Yeah, good idea. And they can help you with safety features, the railings, the structural supports. Make sure you have a strong and very safe deck as well.
That's right.
Well, I think we really should very first, we got to cover this pool so we don't get any sawdust in there and anything that you have around that you don't want sawdust in. This is a pretty dusty job. You want to cover that up. So let's get started.
Sounds good. Thanks.
In order to be really successful in your deck building, it's important to be familiar with some basic decking terminology. Let's take a closer look at some of those terms.
When building a deck, it's always from the ground up, and that means starting with the foundation. In our case, we're building onto an existing patio. This will serve as our foundation. On top of the foundation, we'll anchor vertical support posts. Typically, either 4x4 or 6x6 posts are used, and commonly spaced 4 to 8 feet apart. Horizontal beams are anchored to the support posts and carry the weight of the entire deck. 2x8, 2x10, or 2x12 boards can be used for horizontal beams. Other boards, called joists, run between the beams and are typically installed either 16 or 24 inches apart. Joists distribute the weight of the deck and allow the use of decking boards. Decking boards are then installed over the span of the joists and form the floor of the deck. Next come the railings. Railings enhance the beauty and safety of a deck. Check with your local building codes for the proper height of your handrails. Balusters or spindles are added between the top and bottom handrails for safety and a finished look. The decking usually runs across the staircase landing. Stairs are made up of stringers, or boards that support the stairs, and treads, the boards that are installed on top of the stringers.
One of the most important first steps, of course, is determining how much lumber, how much material you're going to need and what types. It's not just as simple as figuring out the square footage, although that's a pretty simple operation. Multiply the length of your deck times the width of your deck. Don't forget any stairways, landings, railings, things of that nature. You can determine the square footage of your decking material pretty easily. Then you need to figure out your structural material, and that's a little more complicated. It's important to consult someone from your home center or lumberyard on exactly what types, what sizes of your joists, your beams, and how many for your posts that you'll need. That's pretty simple too. Once you've determined how much lumber you think you'll need, add 10 or 15% for waste material. Now, decks are made from several different types of wood, usually a softwood like cedar or redwood. In this case, we're using pressure-treated pine Pressure-treated lumber is great because it resists moisture, bugs, rot, that sort of thing, so it'll last a good long time. Now, once you've determined how much you'll need to select your lumber, and many home centers will allow you to select your own. Now, if they don't, make sure you have an understanding that you can take back any wood that you don't use. Now, when you're selecting lumber, then it's a pretty simple process. You just want to pick something that's straight and has few imperfections. In this case, we're using what's called a number 2 select grade. And you can talk to the people at your home center and they can help you determine what grade will work for you. When you're selecting a piece of lumber, just have a look at it. Sight down the edges. This one looks relatively straight. I think we'll use it. Ugh. Now look, I am not afraid of hard work, but I don't think I want to carry this lumber any farther than I have to. So it's really important to have the lumber delivered as close to the job site as possible. But don't put it on the job site because you'll be tripping over it all the time. You'll end up having to move it. Another thing about treated lumber is it'll come from the home center still a little wet with the chemicals they use to treat it. And it's prone to warping in the direct sunlight. So you want to keep a couple of tarps on hand to cover the lumber when it's not in use.
Coming up, we'll get started on our deck.
With DIY, your garden will grow and you'll grow as a gardener. DIY Gardening and Landscaping. Watch it grow. Tomorrow at 1 Eastern on DIY. Need a hand with that project? Try the brand new DIY Interactive Library at DIYnet.com/library. Now, nearly 100 home improvement projects are always within your reach, each with easy-to-follow animated instructions to guide you step by step, every step of the way. The DIY Interactive Library is sponsored by Lowe's, improving home improvement. Online at DIYnet.com/library. How do you get the most out of your weekends? Plan, prepare, and organize on weeknights. Each weeknight, a different project, a different category. DIY shows you how long, how hard, and how to. From prep to step-by-step, get the most out of your weekends on weeknights. Tomorrow at 8 Eastern and Pacific on DIY. Online at DIYnet.com.
Welcome back to DIY's Build a Deck.
Okay, so now before we get started and actually put any boards up, you want to flash this. And you can buy flashing at any home center. It's relatively inexpensive. Basically what we do is this. We take a piece of this metal, we slide it up underneath the siding. It comes out over our sill board and comes down like this. This is going to keep any moisture that runs down the house from getting back up underneath and rotting out those boards. It's going to save you some headaches in the long run. It's a simple step. Okay, so when you're bending the flashing, you want to make sure you're going to wear a really heavy pair of gloves because this stuff is sharp. It can get cut pretty badly. Well, we're bending this now because it's going to fit right over the sill just perfectly when we're all done. You poke this up underneath the siding, and this will come down over the sill. It'll keep the water from getting up underneath.
The flashing has to be cut to fit under door frames, so measure the width of the door to know how much flashing to notch out. To do that, use tin snips or score the flashing with a utility knife and break it off. You may also have to remove nails in order to slide the flashing underneath the siding. Take a scrap and insert it behind the siding to check for clearance. Then slip the flashing underneath the siding and nail into place.
Okay, so we've installed our flashing, and we've installed this board right on the old box sill to fur out just far enough so that when we attach our sill, it'll be even with this old stone foundation. Now, before we do that, we're going to put in a spacer. This is a piece of the actual decking we're going to use. This is 2x6 treated. We're going to use that as a way to space in. We'll bring up the sill board, and we'll know how far up to attach it. That way, when we finally bring in the decking, it'll slide right in there for a nice fit. So let's get started with that. Okay, we've made a mark 8 feet from the wall, and that's the length of our joists. Of course, the joists are what are going to hold up that decking material eventually. And the deck is 16 feet wide. We're going to have 2 sets of 8-foot joists. We're going to run a beam from this mark all the way down, 13 foot 9 inches, and we'll put a joist at the end of it. And we'll put up a temporary post underneath that to hold it while we fill in with the joists in between. Those joists are going to go every 16 inches on center of the joists, and we'll hang those with metal joist hangers, which we'll show you in just a minute. Okay, I love tools. There, I've said it. I love tools. And here today to talk with us about tools is Hamilton Brock. He's the project manager on this deck job. So, Hamilton, what are some of the necessities for a decking job?
Well, all the tools we have here aren't necessarily absolute essentials for it, but there are things that if you are going to build a deck, you really need to have.
Yeah.
A few of those tools would be a drill, because all the decking boards we're going to be putting down, you certainly can't hand crank those with a screwdriver, and so that's essential to have. You need a level to make sure that when the deck is finished in the end, that it's nice and plumb and level. So you have to have that as well.
And square?
You need a framing square and a speed square. Again, those are two things, especially with a framing square, that'll help us measure out the stair risers when we get those done. You also have a couple different types of drill bits.
And then safety gear.
Yeah, every deck that you build, or any really construction that you do, you need to have safety material, especially the eye goggles, and even with this wood that we're going to be using on this deck, a respirator, because of some of the chemicals in the treated wood. We have behind that, I think, something that also is essential is the circular saw. For all the lumber that we're going to be cutting, you have to have that. There's no way you can do it manually.
Now you guys have some big guns here, some things that we might not necessarily have at home, but that make your job even more efficient.
Right.
Talk about that.
Compound sliding saw, for example, has been great because you can rip through all these floor joists real quickly. Behind the circular saw is a reciprocating saw. You can put different blades on there and cut metal, cut wood. You can cut anything with it, and that certainly makes it nice. Behind that even, we have a framing nailer, and that's been great because, again, when you're putting things up temporarily and you want to nail them together, you pop a few nails in there, it gets them up, it's real quick, and you can do that as well.
And what's that funny looking drill you got?
The drill in the back is great. Anytime you put down a deck, you don't want the screw heads to stick above the deck to snag someone's toe if they're barefooted. And so what that does is has a countersinking head on it. And that actually countersinks each one of the screws about 1/8 of an inch below the deck, which is great. And it does it automatically. You don't have to sit there and play with it. You just press it down and it gets you the depth that you want to be. If you wanted to have a project like this and just do a one-time thing, you wanted to rent this, any rental store will have air compressors, it'll have the nailer guns, it'll have the sliding chop saw. So again, the big stuff that people don't typically have in their tool repertoire, they can get at a rental store.
That's great. Well, I'm ready to get started. So
I am too. All right.
Coming up, we'll install the beams and attach the joists.
The Home Depot is more than a store. It's a year's worth of freedom. Right now, during Independence Days at the Home Depot and Expo Design Center, get no payments and no interest until July 2004 on any appliance or flooring purchase of $299 or more. No coupon required. Just use your consumer credit card and get free delivery and free haul away on appliances. It's more than a store. It's how to feel free. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
Any recipe that starts out open 3 beers is worth a shot. Add a pack of Johnsonville brats, simmer with onions, adjust recipe to 4 beers, grill and serve with your favorite condiments. And if the first bite reminds a certain someone she picked Mr. Right, well, welcome to heaven on a bun. Welcome to Johnsonville.
Sir, heavy rains heading toward Chicago. There are going to be flight delays.
Send out Orbitz Traveler Care Alerts. Destination Orbitz.
I'm contacting customers via email and cell phone, so they won't have to waste time.
DIY's Build a Deck. With a few common carpentry tools and a little bit of know-how, you can build a beautiful deck like this one. I'll show you how. Welcome to DIY's Build a Deck. I'm Jeff Wilson. On our last episode, we hung the rest of our joists and we finished up on our posts, and we got about 1/3 of our decking installed. But I'm not going to be able to stick my head up through this framework very much longer, because today we're going to finish the decking and cover this all up. Then we're going to show you how to plan and build a staircase. So let's get to it. Now, if you'll remember, we're laying our decking boards on a diagonal pattern. And since our longest span is 20 feet,
we're having to make some splices in our decking boards. That's why we've doubled up the joists every fourth one, so we'd have plenty of wood to screw into. Just remember to splice every third or fourth board, and don't splice all of them along the same joist line. The spacing between decking boards is important. A small space is necessary to allow for expansion and contraction. Now, a good way to keep the spacing uniform is to insert a 10-penny nail between the last board installed and the next one. This will maintain uniform spacing across the entire deck. Now, if you're using pressure-treated lumber that's still wet, butt the boards directly against each other. The necessary spacing will occur as the lumber dries out. Also, using a drill with a countersinking head not only makes the job go a lot faster, but it also ensures every screw is countersunk to the exact depth. In our case, we're installing our screws 1/8 of an inch into each board.
All right, this is where our stairway is going to go. Actually, where I am is where our landing will go, and the stairs will go down from here. Now, this landing is really kind of like an extension of our deck, so we need to get this framing done so the guys can lay the decking boards all the way out here. Something we got to get going on. Looks like Sid's already started. Hey, Sid, how's this landing going to get built?
Okay, we're going to anchor this post, this 4x4, to hold our framing right in here.
Oh, okay, framing just like we did for our original deck. This is like a mini deck.
That's right.
So we'll just build the box out here. We'll put a temporary out here, level it up, measure for this post, anchor that in, and then I guess we can fill in with joists and they can deck it.
Right.
Pretty simple. We've done it before.
Right.
Well, I noticed with this post that you've notched it, and it goes up a good deal farther than the deck. What's that extra post on top?
Okay, this will be our first handrail post.
Oh, okay, and that'll go all the way, wrap around our deck.
Right. We'll have, that's right.
Okay, and that notch, I guess, will give that a nice solid joint there. I noticed you got a couple of holes there, too. What are those for?
Right, we'll put 2 carriage bolts in there to bolt this post in to support our handrail and our stairway.
That's great. It's going to be good and solid.
Right.
Well, let's get this anchored in.
The first step is to level and plumb the notched out post and mark around the base of the anchor. Using a masonry bit, drill the depth of the anchor bolt. Make sure to keep the drill bit straight because a bolt installed at an angle won't be as strong. Hammer in the bolt and tighten down the nut securely. Then replace the anchor cap, making sure the outer edges of the post anchor still line up with the marks made on the concrete.
Looks beautiful.
Next, position the post into place. Check level and plumb a final time, and drive nails into the side of the anchor and post. Next, drill 2 holes in the notched out post and beam. Hammer in both carriage bolts and tighten down each nut securely.
Now, the framework for our landing is basically a rectangular box, and 2 sides of that already exist here with our existing framing. What we've had to do is just replicate the other 2 sides, fit it into place, and make sure that all of the angles are 90 degrees. Now, when you get to this point in your deck, you'll have some figuring to do, but the most important thing to remember is take your time and make sure that it's good and square. Let's get this thing up.
The outer beams on our staircase landing are put together the same way as the beams are on our main deck. Using a pneumatic nail gun, nail the outer beam to the sill board attached to the house foundation. Then, nail the cross beam to the outer beam and the support post. Next, temporarily support the structure with a board until everything is level.
We got a temporary, yeah, here we go. We got a support we're going to use here for now. We can get this all leveled up and measure for our posts.
Right there is level.
Finally, take a measurement from the top of the post anchor to the bottom of the outer beam.
Okay, Stacy, it'll be 76 1/2
Using a reciprocating saw, notch the second support post to the width of the outer beams and saw the excess off the end of the post. Stay tuned when DIY's Build a Deck workshop continues. We'll finish our staircase landing and show you all about calculating steps and laying out stringers. And remember, for more tips and detailed instructions on how to build a deck, log on to our website at DIYnet.com.
Brought to you by the Home Depot.
Welcome back to DIY's Build a Deck workshop. We've already anchored the first support post for our staircase. Now we're installing the outer post, and the process is the same.
About right there, and then you can take it away, Jesse. That's good, right there. That's good. That's about it. You know, a quick tip for determining whether or not your anchor hole is deep enough for your anchor bolt is just to have a look at the drill bit. You can see that the concrete powder there is all the way up to here, and that's about how deep the hole is. We can take our anchor bolt and see, yeah, that's just about right.
Once both support posts are anchored, the remaining joists can be installed. In our case, we're attaching them 16 inches on center, or one joist every 16 inches. And remember, just as we did on our main deck, make sure to align the top of the joists flush to the top of the beam. This will ensure the maximum level nailing surface for our decking boards. Nail each joist in temporarily, and then go back and install galvanized joist hangers to each end. They're easy to install. Just put a nail through each pre-drilled hole on both sides of the hanger.
All right, so we finished the framework for our landing. And we're going to let the guys lay some decking up there while Sid and I work on the stairway. Now, stairways are a little bit complicated. With a little bit of math and a couple of terms, we can get you through this. The two most important terms are run, which is the depth of the stair, and rise, or the height of the stair. The first measurement we need to take is the height here from the top of our framework all the way down to our foundation. In this case, it's 84 inches. Now we need to determine the rise. Well, a comfortable rise, or a good rule of thumb, is 7 5/8 inch for a step. That's a real comfortable step when you're walking up it. You can be within a half an inch of that and you'll still be pretty comfortable. So let's start there. We know that our height is 84 inches total, and let's divide that by our ideal of 7.625. And we come up with 11.01, well, 11 and a tiny bit of change. We'll just call it 11. Now we know we have 11 steps that will be 7 5/8 inches tall. From that, we can determine our run. The rule of thumb there is multiply your rise by 2, 7.625 times 2, which is 15 1/4, and subtract that from 25. 25 minus 15 1/4, and this will be your run. That's 9.75 inches, or 9 3/4. So now we have all the information we need to lay out our stairs. We have 11 stairs, they're 7 5/8 inches tall, and they're 9 3/4 inches deep. Sid, can you help us lay that out?
Sure. Okay, we'll just start with the 7 5/8 on this side of the framing square, 9 3/4 on this side.
That's just a template then.
Right, just mark the back side right there, and you do this 11 times.
Huh.
And that gives you your 11 rises.
Right, I got you.
Like 1, 2, so on.
Now, what about our stair tread? Is the height of that going to make a difference in our general design?
After you get all of your rises, the bottom rise, we will take the amount of whatever the decking you use.
1.5 inches in this case.
Right, off the bottom.
So 7 5/8 minus 1.5 inches, and that'll give us the amount that we need to take off the bottom. And then it'll just even itself out.
It evens it up back to whatever you put on the top.
Well, that's pretty simple. What kind of board is this that we're using for our stringer?
Okay, it's 2 by 12.
Okay, and why do we use a 2 by 12?
Just to get more support
Oh, I see. So we have to cut a pretty big chunk out, right?
Right.
And this is going to be our support. The narrowest point is going to be the support.
Right. And we may reinforce even this with the 2x4 through here to give it added strength.
That's great. Okay.
Okay, and then we'll take 1.5 inches, which this framing square is 1.5 inches right there.
All right, this is 1.5 inches wide here.
Right.
And this is the bottom step, so we can...
We'll take that off.
And that'll
right
be our
there.
bottom cut.
Yeah, this will be the cut right here.
Right. And this will be the rise for the last stair on the ground.
Right.
And we'll just... I got it, okay. And once we cut one of these, we can just lay it on top of the next 2x12.
Yeah, this will be our pattern.
And use it as a pattern, a template.
Right.
Great.
Stay tuned. When DIY's Build the Deck workshop continues, we'll finish installing all of the decking boards and show you an easy way to trim the boards to length for a nice finished look. And we'll cut the staircase stringers.
Whether you call it physical...
Everyone deserves a home to call their own, but not everyone can afford one. Habitat for Humanity makes it possible for families to build their own homes as they build their lives. And thanks to a new partnership with DIY, the Do-It-Yourself Network, Habitat volunteers are building better than ever. Habitat for Humanity and DIY, the Do-It-Yourself Network, lending a hand where it's needed most. Joining us in this powerful partnership is Lumber Liquidators.
Welcome back to DIY's Build the Deck workshop.
Now, a good tip when you're working with your power miter saw is to nail a 2x4 on edge into your work surface like this. It'll act like a support for the long ends of the boards that you're working with. It'll help you make a nice straight cut, and it'll keep the saw blade from binding on the wood. Also, don't forget your protective gear. Yep, makes a nice clean cut every time.
Now that we've calculated and cut our staircase stringers, the next step is to finish laying the decking before we can begin installing the staircase. Now, we're using 2x6 boards for our decking, but there are some other options to choose from. Another common choice is called 5/4 decking board. It's slightly thinner than 2x6 and is slightly less expensive. 5/4 decking also comes in a plastic composite material that's dyed to look like wood. Choose your decking boards based on your budget.
This is fun.
Another important consideration when laying decking board is what type of fastener to use. We're using coated decking screws, which is the most popular choice. But you can also use decking nails. Just make sure they're galvanized. Decking screws make the job go a lot faster, and they're also easy to remove should you need to replace a board in the future.
All right, all of our decking boards have been laid. And you'll notice that the ends of the boards here are kind of run wild. We did that by design. It's kind of difficult to actually make perfect cuts on the ends of the boards as you go along. It takes a lot of time. This is much easier. Run them wild and then pop a chalk line and cut them off with a circular saw. You'll be left with a really nice clean edge. In this case, we chose 1.5 inch overhang, but you can decide on your deck whether you want a bigger or smaller overhang. Okay, I'm on the mark. You ready? Here we go. Yeah, that'll work great. And just do the same thing on the other side. Okay, you set? All right. Beautiful. I'm gonna let Stacy do the cutting today because he's a seasoned veteran, but if it were me, I might tack up a temporary piece of lumber, a nice straight long piece that I could use as a guide for my circular saw so I get a good straight cut. Also, make sure there's nobody underneath the deck when you start cutting because when the saw starts up, the wood starts to fly. All right, Stacy? No pressure. got our first stringer cut. Let's trace out our other ones and get those cut, and then we'll get them in place. Okay.
Once the first stringer is cut, use it as a template to mark the other stringers. The process is easy. Just place it on top of a 2x12 and mark along the outline. It's important when selecting 2x12 boards for stringers to choose straight boards with as few imperfections as possible.
Now here's a good tip when you're laying out your stringers. You want to lay out your stringers so that any imperfections like this big knot will be cut out. In this case, we just started our layout right here, and for this knot, we just sort of slid our pattern so that this would be cut out. The reason that's important is that a clear piece of lumber is stronger than a piece of lumber with imperfections, and that's especially important in a stair stringer. Now another thing is to work smart. When you're cutting, start at one end of the board and work one way, and then turn around from the other end and come back down the other way. Now your circular saw is not going to be able to make a perfect cut. It won't be able to get all the way into the angle. So we'll come back with a jigsaw and we'll make that cut so that it's a perfect 90-degree angle and very clean.
Stay tuned. When DIY's Build a Deck workshop continues, we'll attach the staircase stringers.
With a security system, and learn how to plan your escape route during a fire. Plus, new technology that will turn your house into a smart house. Your home, make it safe. Weeknights at 7 Eastern on DIY. Online at DIYnet.com. DIY salutes our troops overseas with a very special home repair workshop from Fort Stewart, Georgia. While they're on the front lines, we bring their loved ones help on the home front. Premieres Friday, July 4th at 8 p.m. on DIY. Online at DIYnet.com.
Okay, now it's time to install our stringers. It's fairly simple. We've added this 2x8 plate right here to catch our middle stringer of the three, but the outer stringer will go here against this 4x4, the inner stringer will go in the middle of our plate, and the other stringer will go against the other 4x4. It's pretty simple. We'll just nail them in place, and there you go.
Start with an outside stringer on either side. Line it up so that it's flush with the top of the support board and centered in the middle of the 4x4 post. Nail it into place. Then repeat the process with the other outside stringer. The bottoms of the outer stringers will eventually be bolted to handrail posts. Next, place a level or a straight board along the top of the first two stringers and position the last stringer so that it just touches the bottom. Then nail the last stringer through the back of the support board. Well, our project is really coming along, and it's starting to resemble a deck. Let's briefly recap what we've accomplished on today's episode. We built the support for our staircase landing just like we constructed the main components of our deck. We finished laying our decking boards over the entire support structure and then popped the chalk line so that we could cut off the excess length, leaving a nice, clean edge to our deck. Then, we calculated how many stairs we would need and the dimensions for each staircase stringer. After cutting the first one, we used it to trace the patterns for our other stringers. Finally, we attached the stringers to the staircase landing.
Oh, excuse me. I just kind of felt like celebrating because our decking is finished. You can imagine it, can't you? A brand new deck overlooking the pool, the smell of burgers on the barbecue, right? Well, we can imagine our deck being finished now. We finished laying the decking and we've installed our stair stringers. Now remember, for detailed information on anything we've talked about here today, such as laying the decking or laying out those stringers, check out our website at DIYnet.com. I'm Jeff Wilson. Thanks for joining us on DIY's Build a Deck.
The Home Depot is more than a store. It's creating a new night spot for the family. It's a new coat of paint and a new form of expression. It's making garage space for a new driver.
There you go.
It's always a guaranteed low price, but the Home Depot knows an investment in your home is a lot more than just a list of projects. It's an investment in your life. The Home Depot. You can do it. We can help.
Hi, I'm Jerry King, and I'm making a hiking staff. I'm a wood carver and a banjo builder and farmer, family man. I built the Passive Solar house, built my own sawmill. So I consider myself a modern day homesteader. I'm doing the same thing that my ancestors did, but with a little more modern conveniences. My father died when I was young, and he taught me a few things about woodworking. My father could make several things with just a pocket knife, and every spring my father would make whistles, and then later on taught me to make little poplar whistles, and that's how I got started in wood carving. This is when I was about 8 or 10 years old. And I only have one rule: if you don't want to cut yourself, don't put any body part in front of the sharp blade. Always keep your hand behind your sharp blade. Well, now this is a true walking stick with a handle, and it has a snake on it. The uniqueness is something I didn't do at all. It's unique because the way it formed in the woods. Honeysuckle vine started to grow at the bottom and grew around the stick and caused the grain of the wood to grow the same direction as the honeysuckle vine was growing. Most of all, my sticks either pertain to maybe farm animals or something in nature. It's like fishing, I think, to some folks. I can sit down and work on a walking stick or hiking stick and be completely relaxed. I'm Jerry. I make hiking sticks with a few simple tools. You can do it yourself.